They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis. But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it.
Sunny Hostin just had the emotional equivalent of a Wi-Fi signal in a cave, completely lost after Charlie, Kirk, and Joe Rogan tag-teamed her ego into oblivion. Tears? Check. Confusion? Oh, absolutely. A meltdown so dramatic even soap operas took notes. But what did they say? That turned Sunny into a human puddle of regrets. Grab your popcorn and buckle up, cause this takedown was so savage, even her teleprompter needed therapy. You won't believe how it all went down. If you want more jaw-dropping moments like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they
Sunny Hoon was having a regular week of televised self-congratulation when the universe decided to hit her with a cosmic 1-2 punch on the political front. Charlie Kirk, the Gen Z whisperer in a suit, armed with graphs and more caffeine than a college. On the cultural front, Joe Rogan, podcast overlord, casually disassembling her media credibility in between conversations about elk, meat, and UFOs.
The culture shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, right, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, and if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do, and no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge. And on that bridge, they'll see RFK. They'll see Elon Musk.
She didn't see it coming, mostly because she was too busy monologuing to an applauding studio audience that thinks echo chambers are a public service. Let's begin with the first strike, the Charlie Kirk data bomb. It's always fascinating when someone takes a break from speaking at a university with 3 protesters and a dog with blue hair to intellectually vaporize someone on national TV without even showing up.
The final point I'll say is this, is Sunny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue? I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more.
Charlie Kirk, never one to shy away from saying what everyone else with an economics degree and basic pattern recognition is thinking, laid out the blueprint of elite media detachment with the delicacy of a wrecking ball. And who better to represent that glorious cathedral of cluelessness than Sunny Hostin, high priestess of progressive posture.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested henhouse.
Charlie didn't even need to name her. He just unpacked a suitcase of bad, takes that travel first class on The View. Talking points like voter suppression is everywhere, or conservatives hate minorities, or the ever-popular Republicans are turning back the clock to 1952. Then he did what no studio audience dares to do. He ran the numbers, real ones, like those things that bounce off Sonny's opinions like Nerf darts off a brick wall. Numbers that showed minority voters swinging toward conservative because, shockingly, they don't enjoy being talked down to by people who make seven figures to pretend they know what a grocery bill costs. Charlie dug deeper, pointing out the oxymoron of millionaire TV hosts pontificating about oppression from Manhattan balconies, sipping almond milk lattes while explaining how the system is rigged. The only thing rigged is the show's applause sign. Then came the elitism. Nuke Sonny, who occupies a permanent seat in the privileged penthouse of media royalty, became the unwitting poster child for a class of pundits who believe having a producer in your ear makes you a philosopher. Charlie laid out how these personalities keep mistaking their tax brackets for moral authority. It's like getting life advice from someone who thinks Whole Foods is affordable.
And the nerve of this woman to whom the country has given so much to try to dump on people who didn't go to college. Look at you. Look at your achievements. How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sonny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that's fine, I guess.
And while the Kirk commentary was methodical, surgical, almost academic in its teardown, it struck where it hurt the most. Credibility, not character, not fashion sense, not even intellect. Just the cold, hard illusion that Sonny's brand of politics is connected to the real world. If this were a boxing match, the towel would have been thrown in. But no, that was only round one. Enter Joe Rogan, the intellectual barroom bouncer of America. Now, Joe Rogan didn't show up in a suit or use pie charts. No, he showed up in the cultural octagon shirt, probably optional, wielding the sacred tools of every man, clarity and casual annihilation. His weapon of choice? Common sense, which in the media elite circle Sonny floats in, is considered a dangerous narcotic. Rogan's takedown didn't need a dossier or a dissertation. It came wrapped in laughter and shrugged off mockery. See, while Charlie Kirk dissected the ideology, Rogan went straight for the ridiculousness of the medium itself. Specifically talk shows that pretend to be serious journalism, but are actually group therapy for people allergic to introspection. He dismantled the idea of media virtue signaling, like someone pointing out that the emperor not only has no clothes, but is also hosting a segment on the ethics of swimwear.
The episode of you when you were on The View, when you were running for president, you got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. And then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
That red hat that says "Make America Great Again," might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Rogan, with his usual blend of gym locker room wisdom and podcast philosopher chic, questioned how these media figures became cultural gatekeepers in the first place. While Sonny clutches pearls over trending hashtags, Rogan's out here questioning the entire premise of her brand. That is, the kind of host who builds a career out of making every issue about herself while claiming to speak for everyone else. He contrasted this with his own experience, conversations with people who actually lived through crises, made hard decisions, and didn't consult their publicist before having an opinion. The contrast was brutal. One side of the media talks about pain, poverty, and politics like it's a theme park ride. The other lives, that discusses it, and God forbid laughs at the insanity of it all. Rogan didn't need to mention her name either. That's the beauty of a roast, so potent, so accurate that the target flinches even when they're not directly hit. He spoke about talk shows becoming echo chambers of elite self-regard where reality goes to die and is buried under a pile of manicured sound bites. Where Kirk used analysis, Rogan used ridicule. While Charlie revealed the numbers, Joe revealed the absurdity, and the result was the same. A woman whose entire on-air persona depends on never being challenged suddenly looked like a poorly written character in a satire about TV news.
Talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this, and as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it, but we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last weekend.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets almost poetic. These two men, so different in style, approach, and vibe, accidentally synchronized like a lunar eclipse of reckoning. One didn't even know the other was coming, but together they unraveled a narrative that had been polished, painted, and promoted for years. Charlie Kirk brought the PowerPoint, Joe Rogan brought the punchlines. Together, they didn't just challenge Sunny Hostin's credibility, they burned the set, flipped the couch, and left the studio without even needing an Uber. And then came the internet. Oh, the glorious petty internet, because when a TV host's worldview gets pummeled from both the academic podium and the podcast microphone, the memes write themselves. Reaction videos sprouted faster than celebrity apologies on Twitter threads. Comparing Kirk's clip to a PhD thesis and Rogan's to a roast session went viral. TikToks began doing duets, acting out each takedown like it was Shakespeare in sweatpants. Sunny didn't respond, because how do you respond to being publicly dismantled by two people who didn't even need to mention you by name? It wasn't a conversation, it wasn't a debate, it was a cosmic audit, and the receipts were not in her favor. Her defenders couldn't even spin it because the critiques weren't petty. They weren't about her looks or her tone, they were about the substance, or lack thereof, behind the public persona. She's built on network-funded righteousness.
I get it. I also hate Joy Behar. So I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View.
Meanwhile, Charlie's clip is now being used in high school debate clubs across the country as an example of how to take someone down without raising your voice. Joe's podcast clip has reached the kind of replay numbers that make Spotify executives do spontaneous fist pumps. And Sunny? She's trending, but not the good kind of trending. More like the, please someone change the topic before we get a sequel kind. It's a rare thing when political strategy and cultural instinct line up so perfectly to obliterate a single narrative. Rarer still when it's done without venom, without confrontation, and without needing to utter a single name. Charlie Kirk and Joe Rogan didn't destroy Sunny Hostin by calling her out, they destroyed her by calling out the world. She represents a world where talking points replace thinking and applause replaces reality. They made that world look like what it really is, a glitter-covered echo chamber with delusions of grandeur. And in doing so, they didn't just tear down a TV persona, they exposed an entire class of pundits whose only qualification is being on the right set at the right time, with the right moral panic queued up. Same target, different weapons. It's like sending a drone strike and a bar fight to the same location, and somehow both votes level the building.
You get people thinking, if you could stop Hitler by any means necessary, wouldn't you stop Hitler? And so they equate Donald Trump with Hitler and go, here you go, this is our modern Hitler. Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it, because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said it's
on television.
Charlie Kirk showed up in his usual uniform, navy blazer, tight haircut, and the slightly smug aura of a kid who's memorized every section of the Constitution, including the weird footnotes. His delivery, pure policy precision. He didn't swing wildly, he surgically dismantled the foundation. Sunny Hostin has built her identity on manufactured outrage, elite detachment, and a TED Talk level overestimation of her own impact. We didn't even need to mention her. That's the art of it. Kirk's political sniper fire tore through her ideology like it was made of recycled view scripts, then cued the smoke machine and opened the cage. Joe Rogan walks in. No script, no stats, just a podcast host with the energy of a high school gym teacher who moonlights as a conspiracy therapist. While Kirk worked the chalkboard, Rogan kicked the door off its hinges with a beer in one hand and a sarcastic "you believe this nonsense" in the other. Rogan's weapon wasn't facts, it was the vibe check. He didn't come to debate Sunny Hostin, he came to point out how ridiculous it is that people like her still believe they're taken seriously. Where Kirk brought charts and arguments, Rogan brought the collective eye roll of middle America and every Uber driver who's ever yelled at NPR.
I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's
dumb.
deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
See, Rogan didn't need Sunny's name either. He went after the culture of people who sound like her. Plastic pundits who bathe in self-importance, talk in problematic discourse sound bites, and can't answer a real question without checking their publicist's pulse. That's where the gut punch landed, not with malice, but with mockery. And that's what hurts worse. You can debate data, you can't debate being laughed at. But here's the twist. These two takedowns didn't overlap. They complemented each other like a left jab and an unexpected steel chair. Kirk's fans, conservatives, fed-up independents, your uncle who quotes Milton Friedman for fun, watch their ideological enemies melt under logic. Meanwhile, Rogan's army, stoners, Spotify listeners, comedians, MMA junkies, and exhausted millennials just wanted to know why someone with that much makeup was still pretending to be oppressed on daytime TV. And so the same person took two L's from two wildly different battlefields. This wasn't a team effort, it was a cosmic coincidence. A unified takedown by logic and laughter. A spontaneous combustion caused by too much unreality colliding with too much honesty. That's why it hits so hard, because you don't expect a politician's chalkboard rant and a stoner stand-up set to converge at the same truth. But they did, and Sunny Hostin just happened to be standing at the epicenter of that inconvenient agreement. The media bubble she floated in didn't pop. It imploded. She didn't get canceled. She didn't get silenced. She got understood by everyone. And it turned out no one liked what they saw once the glitter wore off. Two men, one in a suit, the other in a hoodie, both took separate paths through reason and ridicule and accidentally arrived at the same punchline. Sunny Hostin isn't just out of touch, she's practically in a different time zone. So what happens next? Nothing. Sunny will go on pretending it didn't happen. The applause sign will keep flashing, the coffee will keep being served. But something's changed. You can't unsee what Kirk and Rogan revealed. Once the curtain's pulled back, it doesn't close again. And while Sunny may never publicly acknowledge the breakdown, the internet already did. The memes, the clips, the side-by-side edits, it's all archived, saved, and ready to re-air every time someone says, "But she makes such good points." She doesn't need to cry on air. The breakdown already happened. Quiet, invisible, total, and delivered by two men who don't agree on much except apparently on the comedic tragedy of Sunny Hostin's televised enlightenment tours. One moment, she's the moral compass of daytime TV. Next, she's the punchline in a dual hemisphere demolition. No rebuttals, no replies. Just the sound of ideology shattering under the weight of common sense and cold hard data. Now excuse us while we rewatch those clips for the 11th time and laugh like it's the first.